here to really talk about something that I think is a fascinating question that not just scientists, not just neuroscientists, but anyone surely must think about. And it's, I would argue, one of the biggest questions any human being can ask, which is, what are you experiencing right now? And however close you are to the person sitting next to you, however articulate, however musical, however poetic, no one can share what you're experiencing now firsthand. It's this wonderful subjectivity that is absolutely unique to you that makes things so special, makes life worth living. If someone says you're never going to be conscious ever again, wouldn't that be tantamount to dying, effectively? So this inner experience that no one else can share poses, I think, as the biggest issue facing us, the biggest question, the biggest fascination. What is it? How can we understand it? How does it come about? Well, let me just say straight away, I'm not going to be answering any of those questions. What I am going to try and show you is how neuroscience can bring to the party, I think, a valid contribution. It's not going to be the answers, but I hope that along with the philosophers and all other of the great thinkers who, for centuries, have considered this issue, that we do have a contribution that we can make, which means that, of course, if we're talking about neuroscience, if we're seeing this through the prism of the neuroscientist, inevitably we start with this rather unpromising-looking object on the screen. Now, I love this picture because it does remind me a long time ago when I was a student in Oxford and we had to dissect a human brain. Professor Fink here was in that very department of human anatomy at Oxford, where they wheel on these trolleys containing sort of Tupperware buckets with human brains inside them. And have people dissected? Hands up. Who's dissected a brain? Oh, wow. God, I'm talking to the converted. Everyone's demon neuroscientist. Well, for those of you who didn't put your hand up, please listen to the story. And those of you who did, bear with me, because I think it is worth a thought. That there you are with the brain in formalin, fixative, to enable you to dissect it. So you're wearing surgical gloves. And I remember, perhaps those of you who put your hands up had this very same experience. Actually, I'll ask for a show of hands in a minute if you did. You put your hand in this bucket, and then you hold, just like in the picture, you hold a human brain in one hand. And I remember thinking, if I wasn't wearing surgical gloves and a bit, for some reason, dislodged under my fingernail, would that be the bit that somebody loved with? Would it be a habit? Would it be a memory? Would it be a habit like, let's say, biting your fingernail? Can you have the habit of biting your fingernails underneath your fingernails? Okay, hands up. People with their hands up who also have had those thoughts. You must have. Yes, there we are. Well done. Yeah. So this brings home to you the fascination of neuroscience and how it can almost drive you mad, actually. And perhaps someone would say that is a prerequisite for neuroscience, that you have to be slightly about. Is that how can something that gets under your fingernail give you the experience you're having now? I mean, it's such a sort of leap to make through something that's just really kind of mushy and boring to something that makes your whole life worthwhile. So how do we get there? What is it, if we're talking about the neuroscience, what is it that translates into something that is you, something that is so subjective and personal? This isn't you. This is George Bernard Shaw. And the reason I like this picture is because you can just, the philosophers hate this, if I say you can just tell he's thinking. You can just tell he's thinking. You know, what's going on behind those piercing eyes? What's going on behind your piercing eyes, even if they're not piercing? What's going on that gives you this subjective take on the world, this phenomenology that we call consciousness? So that's what we're going to look at. We're going to see how neuroscience can help us make some kind of progress. And perhaps I should say from the outset, what we are not going to be able to do is work out how the water is turned into wine. How does the water of boring old brain cells and sludgy stuff translate into the wine of phenomenological subjective experience? So let's start, nonetheless, with some assumptions. The first might seem pretty obvious, and that is, sadly, that consciousness can't be formally defined. Now, this really does exercise many people, and indeed for some, they actually shrug and give up. Can you imagine? We wouldn't have any more lecture if we gave up now, because we can't formally define it. I think the problem is that normally our strategies for defining things fall down here. There's two broad strategies that normally we'd use to define something. One is referral to a higher set. For example, I'd say, a table is a piece of furniture. Love is an emotion. Consciousness is a what? What is it? There's no higher set of which consciousness is a subpart. The other is operational definitions. Flight is when you defy gravity. Consciousness is when you do what? You're not doing anything, apart from laughing at my rather poor jokes. And yeah, I hope you're still conscious at this early stage of the talk. So therefore, our normal strategies, either operational or referral to a higher set, don't work. And that's why I think we flounder in trying to define what it means.